Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Ask a Property Manager. This is episode number 91 and today is October 6th, 2021. We're coming to you from Studio 2.0 here at Own Buffalo. I'm Andrew Schultz, Principal Broker of Own Buffalo Inc. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about raising rent when working with Section 8 vouchers, how to verify income for someone who's self-employed. We'll answer some questions from housing providers around the country and so much more. But before we jump into that, we are going to go ahead and plug our social media. Don't forget to check out new episodes of Ask a Property Manager every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page. You can also catch the replays the same day on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Don't forget about our Instagram. We post things there that don't make it onto the other platforms. And last but not least, a new episode of the Rent Prep for Landlords podcast drops tomorrow. We're taking a look at what to do when a contractor underperforms on a job. Should you accept a year of rent up front? And renting an apartment to a company that wants to use it to house their employees. So don't miss out on that one. New episodes of the Rent Prep for Landlords podcast drop every other Thursday. So tomorrow we'll have a brand new episode for you. Anywhere podcasts are heard or over at rentprep.com/podcast. Before we jump into our news of the day, I wanted to mention that I had a request from a couple of different tenant groups to do some tenant-focused videos. So if you happen to be a tenant watching this, or if you are a housing provider watching this and you have ideas for videos that would be tenant-focused that could help out the tenant, let us know. And we'll do some content that's more geared towards tenants. Maybe something like basic maintenance, how to reset a tripped breaker or a tripped ground fault interrupter or something along those lines. Let us know. If there's content that would be of value to tenants, we're very interested in putting some of that content out as well. And then if you are a housing provider and you have an idea for some content that would be useful to tenants, let us know and we will certainly do what we can to try to put out a video revolving around that content. So we are going to go ahead now and jump into our news of the day. This first article comes to us via Housing Wire. 24% of sellers received 4 or more offers in 2021. This is a pretty short article. We'll just bust through this one real quick. Nearly 1/4 of U.S. home sellers received 4 or more offers on their home in 2021, according to Zillow's latest Consumer Housing Trends Report. The rise in the number of homes that receive multiple offers is reflected in the increased frequency of bidding wars in 21. Typical sellers received 2 offers, which is the same as the past year's 3. I don't know how that sentence makes any sense. The report, which was based off of data collected by Zillow Group Population Science through a national survey of more than 2,000 sellers, also found that the average of offers that fell through was slightly higher than in years past, with 56% of sellers reporting that none of their offers fell through, compared to 58% in 2020. The median number of offers that fell through, however, remained at 0 for the 4th year in a row. Most sellers, 74%, received at least one offer on their property that was all cash or did not include a financing contingency. This is slightly higher than the number of buyers who reported purchasing a home without a mortgage, 68%. This discrepancy suggests that buyers who need financing can still compete with cash offers as long as their offer is appealing in other ways. One such way a buyer could make their offer more appealing is by waiving an inspection. Please don't waive your home inspection. In 2021, 65% of sellers reported that they received at least one offer that waived an inspection, but 88% of successful buyers said they got an inspection prior to finalizing their home purchase. Only 16% of homes sold in 2021 underwent no inspections from potential buyers, according to the report, a clear sign that buyers who insist on an inspection are still competitive. That's actually a really, really important thing to highlight here. And I think that Rob over at Pillar to Post would agree, or any of my other home inspector buddies. 16% of homes sold in 2021 had no inspection, a clear sign that buyers who insist on an inspection are still competitive. Don't waive your home inspection contingency. Overall, sellers were typically white, 72%, and selling in suburban areas, 51%, in the South, 41%. Only 10% of sellers were black, while Latinx and AAPI sellers made up 8% and 6% of all sellers, respectively. Nearly 80% of sellers said that a life event influenced their decision to sell their home, with 46% citing a change in their household or family size as the main reason for moving. About 2/3 of sellers also reported buying a home. So that is actually pretty interesting to see the logic behind why people are moving. With 46% citing a change in their household or family size, we are starting to see a lot of people do the generational household thing. where you might have, a more of an extended family unit living under one roof, to number one, keep costs down, but number two, to make everyone's life a little bit easier. About 2/3 of sellers also reported buying a home, which tells me that there was about 1/3 of sellers that moved into some sort of an apartment, or maybe if they're older, into an assisted living facility or something like that. So, most properties are still seeing multiple offers here in the Western New York market. Not knowing all the statistics off the top of my head, I think that we are seeing a reduction in the number of offers that we're seeing on every property, because I think that a lot of buyers have either decided to pump the brakes a little bit, or maybe they're priced out of the market at this point. Whatever the case may be, I do think that we're starting to see fewer multiple offer situations. We're not seeing 20 and 30 offers. Now we're seeing more like 2, 3, 4 offers, which is probably for the best, if you want my opinion. So, moving on to our next article. This one comes to us via the Real Deal Real Estate News. Typically, I look at their New York City stuff, but this actually popped up as a national article, and I figured that I would share this with you. I apologize in advance. This website is littered with ads. I do have an ad blocker, but unfortunately it does not catch all of them. This article is titled, "The Hotel Recovery is Far From Complete." The recovery of the hotel industry in the United States is far from complete, as an optimistic peak vacation season gives way to what may be a disappointing fall and holiday season. About 1 billion hotel rooms will be booked in the country this year, according to a forecast from data and analytics firm STR, reported by the Wall Street Journal. The figures mark a sizable jump from 829 million in 2020, but a wide gap from the 1.3 billion rooms booked in 2019. A decline in business-related travel revenue is proving to be a major hit to the industry. The American Hotel and Lodge Association previously predicted a $59 billion decline in business travel revenue from 2019. The journal noted that a bigger decline than previous year, which only saw a $49 billion decline. There are some promising signs in the sector. Group demand, a measure that incorporates both business and leisure travel, rose 5.7% in the final 2 weeks of September, per the STR forecast. The average daily rate for groups jumped $16 during that time to a pandemic high of $214. Hotel owners are also hoping that increasing vaccination rates and the holiday season will draw tourists back in during the upcoming colder months. International travelers who are fully vaccinated will be able to travel to the United States beginning next month. Amid hopes for an uptick and some added pressure from a bill requiring some hotels to pay service employees a severance, 2 prominent New York hotels have kicked off a reopening process. The New York Hilton Midtown reopened on Monday, while the Grand Hyatt in Midtown is set to reopen at the beginning of November. The city's beleaguered industry appears to reflect the uphill battle faced by hotels across the country. As lockdown measures were rolled back amid broad vaccine distribution this spring, the industry saw some promising upticks in customers, but still paled in comparison to pre-pandemic rates, with revenue per available room down 62% in May compared to the same period in 2019. An April report from CBRE predicted New York City's hotel occupancy rates won't recover to pre-pandemic levels until 2025. So definitely still quite a bit of room to go in the hotel and travel industry. I haven't paid a ton of attention to the airline industry lately to see how their recovery is going. I would assume that a lot of airlines have started to recover, but I'm sure that they're still feeling the long-term effects of not being able to load a full passenger count, or not having enough people to get a full passenger count, even if you are allowed to load a full passenger count. There's more restrictions on travel now. Hopefully this recovers quickly. I can tell you, I was in a hotel a couple weekends back, and it looked to be pretty well to capacity. It was, set up properly. I didn't have any concerns while I was there about feeling unsafe or anything like that. And the hotel seemed to be basically back to normal operations, back to capacity. And this was in Ohio, in the Cleveland area. So, there's definitely people out there who are starting to travel. We've seen it all summer. We're going to see it more as we get into winter, I think, assuming you don't wind up under some more lockdowns or mandates or whatever the case may be. But I think that we're in a very good position to kind of see things move forward. Let's go ahead and look at something that's a little bit humorous. I don't know where people find these contractors, for lack of a better term, but please stop using them. That's not acceptable, no matter how you slice it. And I don't know what you guys were thinking back in the day with toilet seats with literally they're butterflies set in the epoxy of this toilet seat. It's ridiculous. I don't understand what you guys were thinking back in the day, but all the more power to you, I suppose. Let's go ahead and jump into our questions from housing providers around the country here, starting with this one on raising rent with Section 8 vouchers. Section 8 landlords, do you raise the rent every year? So we raise the rent every year on every tenant unless they're at the top of the market in terms of their rent. Expenses go up every single year, be it taxes, insurance, the cost of repairs, the cost of building materials, etc. Your costs go up every single year. Raising your rent is what helps you to offset that. And then usually when you come up with a Section 8 voucher, you need to send a notification to both the tenant and to the caseworker that the rent is going to be going up so that they can adjust portion payments and do what they need to do on their end. Plan on getting into the process a little bit earlier with a Section 8 tenant because you do have an extra person, the caseworker, that you have to coordinate with, and they have to do what they need to do on their end, which may require participation from the tenant in updating their income documents and things like that. So if you have the ability to maybe add an extra 30 days, just as a buffer, when you're coming up on the end of that lease term, add an extra 30 days so that you know that you can get your new lease signed and everything squared away prior to that new lease going into effect. So definitely plan on that extra time. So keep in mind that HUD also sets a fair market rent for Section 8 vouchers. You can find that on their website, and I will actually switch over to desktop mode here and show you. I did a quick Google search for HUD fair market rent rate. It's literally the first thing that pops up when you Google it. You can see the fair rent rates. We're going to go, let's see, 2021. We'll look at the current 2021 fair market rents for New York. Let's see, Erie County, which is where we're at. Next screen. And you can see that this is the fair market rent rate that the HUD standard is using for fiscal year 2021. And they break it out by bedroom. So if you have a 3-bedroom, they've determined that in 2021, the fair market rent for a 3-bedroom in our metro area, which is basically like Erie, Niagara counties, Buffalo, Cheektowaga, Niagara Falls, is $1,144. So your rent may be higher or lower than that, but I can guarantee you that a Section 8 voucher is never going to pay you more than that $1,144. So this will give you at least a little bit of an idea as to what the Section 8 programs are looking at in terms of dollar amounts when they're trying to determine whether a rent increase is reasonable or not reasonable. And you can make your rent, you can determine what you want your rent to be. That's just kind of a guideline that you can use. You should always plan on keeping your apartments as close to market rate rents as possible. On the off chance that someday we wind up with a rent control situation similar to what they have in downstate in New York City, if you're not at market rate, if you're below market rate, you're going to be in a situation where you're constantly going to be struggling because you're only going to be able to adjust your rents a small amount on a yearly basis. So being below market rent, not only does it put you behind in paying your expenses, but if you find yourself in a situation where you can no longer adjust rents freely, you could find yourself in a real hurt where you're not able to adjust rents on a tenant that's been there for an extended period of time, and it could cause you a big issue down the road. So that's just something to keep in mind. Yes, you can increase rent with Section 8 vouchers. Yes, I recommend you increase your rents every single year for the reasons that we outlined a few minutes ago. Just make sure that if you are working with a Section 8 voucher that you do plan for a little bit of extra time in that rent rate increase to make sure everybody is on the same page. Let's go to this one. Next question is on verifying income for someone who's self-employed. When someone gives you a copy of their tax returns as proof of income, what do? It's a business that they own. So you don't want the business tax return here, you want their personal tax return. On their personal tax return, you're going to be looking for their AGI, their adjusted gross income, and then it's going to be either plus a refund, if they have a refund coming to them, or minus whatever they owe in taxes. That's going to give you their net income for this use case. Essentially, your AGI plus or minus a refund or what you owe in taxes is going to give you your net income. Once you have that net income, divide it by 12 months. Now you have your average monthly income. That's the process that we've been using to verify self-employed people who have been self-employed for a period of 2 years or more. We also require them to give us a copy of their last 2 months' personal bank statements showing that they are receiving deposits into their bank account from the business. If it's someone who's been self-employed for under 2 years, we require 6 months of bank statements showing personal bank statements showing their receiving direct deposits or receiving funds from the business over the course of the last 6 months. And for the entire duration that they've been self-employed, if they've filed any sort of a tax return or if there are any tax statements available, we want to see those as well. We do have a couple of other options. We do allow for income verification of the individual with a CPA prepared and notarized financial statement for the individual, not for the business. Or if they can show that they've had 12 months of rent in their bank account for the past 12 months, then we will, generally speaking, approve them on the income basis that way as well. So there's a few different ways that you can verify income on a self-employed individual. My recommendation is look at those tax returns, especially if it's been 2+ years. If it's been less than 2 years, get 6 months of bank statements, take the average or take the amount from those 6 months of add them together, divide it out by 6. Now you've got it's a gross number, keep that in mind. But you at least have a gross number there that you can work from as to what their income would be. That's how we go about doing our income verifications on self-employed individuals, and that seems to work pretty well so far. Just keep in mind that all of the records that you're looking at, you want them to be personal records, not the company's records. Unless the company is signing the lease, which if the company was signing the lease, you would be using the CEO as the guarantor, which we talked about, I believe, in our last episode. It's not a company that you're verifying, it's the individual that you're verifying. So verify the individual, don't bother verifying the company. In this instance, it's not the company you're renting to, it is the individual, and that's the person who's responsible for paying you the rent. So make sure that that's the person that you're actually verifying the information on. Our final question is bugs in the trash can, landlord's problem. Hi, this is my first post here, and I'm new to renting out our personal home. We've had quite a few issues with our tenants, and I wanted to ask about those later, but the current issue is that they have maggots in the outside trash can that the garbage company picks up. She told me she's bleached it twice and sprayed it with bug spray, but that she's requesting a new trash can. Our trash company says that they don't replace them due to bugs, that they only replace them if they're broken. The tenant is upset and demanding a new trash can and said she will just call the trash company herself. We pay for our trash service with our taxes every year, so it's the county and not just a random company. What am I supposed to do? You're not supposed to do anything here. This is a tenant problem. The tenant needs to clean their garbage can out, plain and simple. This isn't an issue that you as the landlord need to be involved in or even entertain. It's not like you left them a garbage can full of maggots, I hope. If you did, then it is your fault, and you need to take care of it. But assuming the garbage can was clean and empty when you turn the unit over, the maggots grew as a result of something the tenant did, i.e. throwing their garbage out. Usually this is the result of food being thrown into a garbage can and not having the food in a bag. Just throwing like food scraps or something, or maybe you're outside and you throw a paper plate in the garbage can directly and it has some food left on it or something like that. That will cause the growth of bugs, plain and simple. It's one of those situations where sometimes garbage cans get gross and they need to be cleaned. So I spent some time Googling some tips for your tenant. You could forward these to them if you'd like. You can drown the garbage can with boiling water, throw a bunch of boiling water in the garbage can and let it sit for 15-20 minutes to kill whatever bugs and larvae may be in there. You can also try vinegar in hot water. You can try cinnamon in hot water. You can try sprinkling salt on them, salt and lime. You can hose the can out. You can pressure wash the can to get everything out of it. Leave the can out in the hot sun. There's a lot of different things that you can do to try to kill these bugs. And every single one of these is something that your tenant can handle without you needing to be involved in it. There's lots and lots of options here, but the baseline is the tenant is responsible for taking care of this. They need to handle it on their own. The only exception I see to this would be in the event that you left them a dirty can that had a bunch of bugs in it. Doesn't sound like that's the case here. So it sounds to me like this is one of those tenant responsible items and the tenant needs to step up and just kind of take charge of the situation. That pretty much wraps things up for this week's episode of Ask a Property Manager. Thank you all so much for watching. We truly do appreciate it. You can help us to improve Ask a Property Manager by dropping a question in the comments either on Facebook or on YouTube, and your question may be picked up and answered in an upcoming episode. If you enjoyed this content, or if I brought some value to your day, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. YouTube and Facebook both push videos based on community feedback, so every like, comment, subscribe, and share helps us to grow and reach more people. We'll be back next week on Wednesday, October 13th at 10 a.m. Eastern with another show you won't want to miss. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.